thanks for joining. If you're new here, I'm Wendy and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, just about anywhere we can find things to sell online and flip for a profit. If that's content you're interested in, you're in the right place. Today's video is going to be what sold for December 31st through January 6th. Let's get started. The first thing that sold was actually a Mercari sale. This was a vintage replacement lot of 4 Christmas tree replacement bubble light bulbs. And if you're not aware, you can no longer sell Christmas tree vintage bubble lights, or actually bubble lights of any kind. eBay has started removing all of those listings because there is some kind of material in the bubble lights, the vintage bubble lights, that is a hazard. And if those lights break, I guess you can potentially breathe it in and it can be dangerous. So eBay is no longer allowing the sale of bubble lights. I guess only the vintage ones are restricted, but apparently people have had both vintage and modern bubble lights removed on eBay, so people just aren't listing them at all on eBay anymore. But I was able to successfully sell vintage bubble lights on Mercari. I sold a working strand that I had picked up at an estate sale before I knew that they were restricted on eBay, and then also these bulbs. And I'm just probably not going to pick them up anymore because I don't want to sell anything that could potentially be hazardous, but I had these and needed to offload them, so I sold them on Mercari. The people that I sold them to were extremely happy to have them because I think they're kind of hard to come by now, and I sold them pretty cheap because I just wanted to get rid of them. I sold these 4 bulbs for $9 plus shipping. I don't know how much exactly I had paid for them because I lost my receipt or didn't write it down when we had gone to this estate sale, and I have it on video, but I have not watched that video yet to see. I think I probably paid like $1 or $2 for them, so not much. But I did sell these on best offer. It was after Christmas, and so now I'm done with them. No more bubble lights for me. Next up was a pair of women's Vigos jeans. They were Seattle cut boot cut jeans. They had the decorated flat pocket on the back. We got these a long time ago at the Goodwill outlet, the bins, and they took forever to sell. I was surprised. I thought this was a good brand, but I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe I was wrong. Let me know in the comments below if you're familiar with this brand, if you've ever sold it. We had picked these up for $1.68 and they sold on offer to buyer for $16.78. We did get positive feedback on them. Next up was a 2022 Sonic Wacky Pack Kids Meal toy. It was Masters of the Universe Skeletor. It was loose out of the package, but I picked it up because He-Man stuff does well, and we always do really well with Sonic. So those two things combined meant it was a good pickup for me. We got this when we were playing Bins Bingo. We paid $1.18 for it, and it sold really fast for our full asking price of $7.99. Next up was a really pretty vintage Neiman Marcus extra small. I described the color as oxblood. It was a really cool color. It was kind of like a color changing dress. You would shine the light on it in a certain way and it would look black. Then you would shift the light and it would look like an oxblood, like a reddish brown color. And it was just a really pretty dress. I described it as a fringe flapper dress, and it was just a very beautiful tank dress. It was vintage. We got this at the Hoarder estate sale. We paid $5 for it, and it sold for $50 even on best offer. I was really worried when this dress went out because it was listed in the tag as a size 3-4. But this dress was so small. This dress was teeny, teeny, tiny. So I listed it, as it was on the title as a 3-4, but I also listed it as extra small. I probably should have put extra, extra small, but I was hesitant to put that. But I said very clearly in the item description and condition details to check the measurements, and we took very careful measurements of it. Because I was like, this dress is not going to fit a modern size 3-4. It was so tiny. But the person who got it must have very carefully checked the measurements. They loved it and they gave us positive feedback, so I was very relieved when I saw that. The next sale I was worried about as well. It was a vintage Whiting and Davis black metal mesh leather drawstring pouch purse. We got this at the 75% off day 4 sale. And Whiting and Davis is a great brand of vintage evening handbag purse to pick up if you ever see it for the right price, because it's a sought after brand. So when we saw this for 75% off, we decided to pick it up. But it was very, very dark in that room, and we did miss some damage on it. We paid $6.77 for this purse, even at 75% off. But this purse did sell for $21.99. But I was worried about this one as well, because one of the drawstring pouch, the little things that you pull to cinch it up, had like some significant damage on it. So we disclosed that, but the buyer was happy with this item also, and we got positive feedback on that, so I was really relieved about that as well. Next up was another item that we got in the bins when we were playing Bins Bingo. We got a huge stack of these Maker's Mark bourbon whiskey organic cotton bandanas. They were just like promotional giveaway or buy with purchase or something, who knows where exactly they came from, but they were all brand new, and we got a big stack of them, and so we were able to do a quantity listing. And this is the second one. Actually, this is the first one that we've sold. We've sold another one since this one. So we paid $1.18 for this at the bins. This one sold for $7.98. I have found that these promotional items for liquor type, different promotional items tend to sell well for us. And these are moving kind of slowly, but I think that they will continue to move, and I think this was a good pickup. Next up was a lot of 16 blank audio cassettes. They were just various brands. They were various lengths as well. We had 60 minute, 90 minutes, and 110 minutes, and 120 minutes. So we had a big variety in there. And we would just pick these up at all kinds of different places when we would see them, and then once we got enough, we lotted them all together. Looks like the majority of them came from a thrift store, and in total we paid $3.23 for these. They sold on offer to buyer for $29.58. And we've got a big stack sitting right over here ready to make another lot really soon. Next up was a Little Tikes orange 4-inch replacement inflatable basketball. So this is just one of those little inflatable basketballs that would go with one of the Little Tikes toddler size basketball hoops, and this is we sold this as a replacement part for that. This came in a thrift store toy bag. The ball was like somewhat deflated, but we used our compressor to air it up and make sure it didn't have a hole in it or anything, and it was in good condition, so we sold it as a replacement part. Replacement parts for toys do really well. People are always looking for replacement parts for toys, so don't count those out. This we got in a toy bag. We paid 19 cents for it, and it sold for $11.98 pretty quickly on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage Washington Redskins Super Bowl men's sweatshirt. The brand was Nutmeg, and it was in excellent condition. We got this at the Sugar Train estate sale. I don't know if you have ever watched any of our videos before, but that estate sale was actually a really successful estate sale for us as far as pickup goes, with the exception of its namesake, which was the Sugartown train. That train was a disaster for us. But anyway, this we got a lot of vintage sports memorabilia, clothes and things like that at that estate sale, and so this is one of those, and it sold. We paid $3 for that, and this sweatshirt sold for $19.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage Sesame Street 10 record set. This I got at an estate sale also. I paid $2 for it, and it sold on best offer for $25 even. We got positive feedback on that. Next up was a brand new with tags women's Ralph Lauren button up. It had like a ruffle on the neck. It was a button up shirt. This was brand new with tags, and I got it at a garage sale for $1.25, and it sold on offer to buyer for $26.38. Next up was another item we got in the Goodwill bins when we were playing Bins Bingo. This was a board game. It was called Munchkin Oz. It was not a board game we were familiar with or had ever seen before. We just picked it up because it looked interesting, and it appeared to be complete. When we got it home and looked at it more carefully, it was complete. and it sold pretty quickly. So I do think that if you can find this in the wild and it's complete and you can get it for a good price, it's probably worth picking up. I think that if I'm remembering correctly, I think that this is a board game that they have like a bunch of different versions of, and this was a limited edition artist version. This one was called Munchkin Oz, and this was the guest artist Katie Cook edition. So there are other versions of the game Munchkin Oz that might not be as valuable, but this particular edition by this guest artist Katie Cook might have made it more valuable. So this one we paid $1.18 for, and it sold pretty quickly for $21.18. I mean, it sold within like a month and a half or something like that. So that's pretty good for a board game. Next up was an antique 1800s German music book, a Richard Wagner music book. We got this at the Day 4 75% off estate sale, where we got a bunch of antique German music books. They have not been moving very quickly, but I mean, they are very niche, specialized items. I think this might be the first one that we sold. We paid 54 cents for this book, and it sold for our full asking price of $49.99. But I mean, that pays for all the books. So there you go. If we never sell another one of the antique German books, we've made our money back on just this one sale. So no problem. Next up was something that we have had in our store for like 4 years. So we were very glad to get rid of this. This was a vintage 24 by 36, so very big, like 2 by 3 foot. It was a John Morrell poster showing all the different beef cuts. And this was a vintage poster. It's from 1984, so we had a lot of watchers on this for a very long time. And I had lowered the price many times on this. So when I saw this sale come through, I was really excited to get the sale. We had no cost associated with this because this is something that we found in like our back storage area of the other business that we own, which is a custom picture frame shop. I don't know why it was in there. Just, you know, we have a lot of really random items in that back storage area of the custom picture frame shop that we've found as we've been cleaning it out. This sold for $48.99. So that's a really good sale for something that we had no cost associated with, but I was really glad to see that sale because we've been hanging on to that poster for a while. Next up was a vintage 2.5-inch white porcelain. These have many different names. So when I looked it up, they're called either popcorn or sugared or sugar bear. To me, it looked more like a lamb, but when I looked it up, people were referring to them as a sugar bear. So these are little figurines. It was marked made in Japan on the bottom. I had gotten this at an estate sale, actually the same estate sale where I got the Sesame Street records, and this sold for $18.99. Next up was an NFL brand one-size-fits-all red embroidered Washington Redskins baseball cap. We got this in the Goodwill bins when we were playing Ben's Bingo. We paid $1.18 for it. It sold for $19.48 on offer to buyer. We got positive feedback on that. Next up was a really interesting looking, they looked Y2K to me, so I put Y2K in the title. I don't know that they were vintage, so I did not put vintage in the title. I just put Y2K because that was the look that they had. The brand was Cape Robin, and they were called Neon. The style was Commander. They actually had the style name on the inside. They were neon animal platform combat boots. They have a lot going on. We got those at a garage sale for $3. I picked them up because they were really interesting and wild looking. When something like really catches my eye and I look twice at it, I always pick it up because somebody is probably going to be interested in it as well. They sold for $30 even on best offer. Next up was a genuine Coach red pebble leather zipper wristlet. It was a little clutch. We paid $8 for that at a garage sale, and that sold on best offer for $50 even. I do remember I very clearly insulted the woman at the garage sale who was running the garage sale because we were shopping and I was picking up a bunch of stuff. I bought a lot of brooches from her, and then I was looking at the Coach wristlet, and she was trying to sell it to me. I think she was saying that she wanted like $10 for it, and I was looking at it and I was like, well, is it real? And she was so offended that I asked her that, and she was like, well, yes, it is. My sister and I bought that together at the Coach outlet. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was just making sure. But I totally offended her when I asked her that question, so, but she did sell it to me for $8. She's the one who offered it to me for $8. I did not ask after offending her so clearly. But it did take quite a while to sell. I did actually recently lower the price on it, and we had done the end item and sell similar when we were doing our annual inventory, and that's what got that item to move. Next up was a 6-piece set of burlap poinsettia embellishments from Hobby Lobby. We found these in the Goodwill bins. We paid $1.50 for those, and they sold for $8.50. We got positive feedback on those. Those sold after Christmas too. We sell a lot of Christmas stuff after Christmas, and I was thinking about it, and I think this is why. I think when people are putting away their Christmas items and cleaning up all of their Christmas stuff, they're looking at it and kind of doing their own inventory of their Christmas items and figuring out, like, this is what I have, this is what I might need for next year. And so they're kind of like almost restocking what they are going to need for Christmas for the following year at the end of the Christmas season of this year. So I think that's why you continue to have Christmas item sales after Christmas, like immediately after Christmas. That's my theory. Let me know what your theory is in the comments below. Next up was another Christmas item that sold right after Christmas. This was we described it as a 6.25 inch tall rustic mini hand painted weathered snowman birdhouse with tin roof. This was actually something that belonged to me that I no longer displayed, so I had no cost associated with it because it was a gift, and it sold for $18.99 for our full asking price. And we had that in our store for a long time. We got positive feedback on that. Next up was a Romeo and Juliet new in package sealed DVD. That sold for $11.18 on offer to buyer, and we had gotten that at a garage sale for 50 cents. We got positive feedback on that. And actually that was one of the items in our last What Sold video. I mentioned that we were having a lot of buyers contact us to let us know that their item stated that it was delivered, but they actually hadn't received it, and this was an example of that. The buyer had contacted me and said it stated that it was delivered and they didn't get it, and I sent them the message, the standard message that I sent to everyone, and they did end up locating their item with the help of their postal carrier who had misdelivered it to a nearby house, and they followed my instructions and were able to find their item, and we ended up getting positive feedback from that buyer, so that was nice. Next up was a 2015 Care Bear. It was a plush Care Bear. It was Sweet Dreams Bear. We got this at a garage sale for $1, and it sold for $11.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was a pair of Simply Vera Wang skinny mid-rise stretch pull-on dress pants. These were actually mine that I did not wear anymore, and they sold for $22.99, which was our full asking price. Next up was another item that came from our personal collection. We actually got it in one of our Happy Meals and decided to sell it, so we had no cost associated with it. It was a 2022 McDonald's Happy Meal toy. This was one of the Disney World 50th anniversary toys. It was the Goofy Expedition Everest No. 5 toy. And actually we sold 2 of these now that I'm looking at my list. We sold 2 of these to the same buyer, and they sold for a total cost of $15 on best offer. So I guess we had gotten 2 of those out of 2 different Happy Meals and listed them together because that's what I have listed on my spreadsheet. So apparently we got 2 Happy Meals and we got the same toy. Next up was a women's western shirt with like pearl snaps, and it was embroidered and embellished. It was a very fancy western shirt by the brand Mine and Bill's Outfitters. We had gotten this at an estate sale quite a while ago. We had actually sold it previously a long time ago, and it was returned because of a fit issue. And then it sat in our store for a very long time and did not sell. But it did eventually sell again for $20 even on best offer. We had paid $2 for that at the estate sale. Next up was a 2014 Hot Wheels Batmobile car. We got this at a thrift store in a big bag of toys for 43 cents, and it sold on offer to buyer for $7.18. Next up was something we got at the J. Crew garage sale. This was a Madewell plaid ex-boyfriend flannel shirt. It looked hardly worn at all, just like everything from that garage sale. This sold for $27.99, and we had paid just $2 for that. We got positive feedback on that, and I was a little bit worried about that sale because when the buyer had originally purchased it, they contacted me and said, oh, oops, I have the wrong address in my account. And so I am not willing to ship to an alternate address, even if it's an inexpensive item. I always tell the buyer, I don't mind shipping to another address, but we will have to cancel your order and you'll have to repurchase, updating your address. And I explain why to them. I say it's because if I ship to an alternate address, I'll lose my seller protection. I'm sure you can understand. And if they are a valid buyer and not doing anything fishy, they should be willing to cancel the order, update their address, and be willing to understand that if you're losing your seller protection to send to another address, that they should be willing to understand why that would be an issue for you. And this buyer was very understanding. They said, oh, no problem. They updated their address and repurchased the item immediately, and I sent out to their new address. And they had no problem with it at all, got the shirt, gave us positive feedback, and so it was a very positive experience for everybody. Even though it was a pain for that buyer to do all of that, they were very understanding about it. So that was good. Next up was a vintage hand-beaded Angora wool evening cardigan by the brand Sinless. We had gotten this at an estate sale for $5.12. We had it in our store for a little while. It took quite a while to sell. Probably a year, maybe more. This sold for $38.99, which was our full asking price, so I guess it was worth the wait. Next up was a vintage official 11x14 NASA picture set. It had 12 pictures in it, and it was a set of the Apollo first manned lunar landing. We got this at the Goodwill bins when we were playing Bins Bingo, and we paid $1.18 for the set. It sold on a best offer of $53. Next up was a 2009 Pro Flowers brown plush teddy bear. It was a Valentine's Day themed bear, so selling right in time to give away as a gift for Valentine's Day. So if you have any Valentine's Day items, make sure you get those listed because we've sold several Valentine's Day themed items in the last couple of weeks. This bear sold for $18.99, which was our full asking price, and we had paid 92 cents for that at the bins. Next up was a Nike Boys heather gray full zip fleece hoodie. This belonged to my son, and so we had no cost associated with that, and it sold for $30 even on best offer. I don't know why, but this took forever to sell. Maybe I had it overpriced, but it just took forever to sell. Next up was a Effie brand necklace and anchor pendant. It was brand new, never used. We actually got this as a either gift with purchase or like a gift for just going into the jewelry store on a cruise, or some kind of gift on a cruise. I don't remember what it was, but we didn't have any cost associated with it. And it was not real, it wasn't fine jewelry, it was just like a stainless steel or something like that. But it was still a very nice anchor pendant. If you had like a charm bracelet or something like that and were looking for an anchor charm, this was perfect. So, and also it had, you could use it as a necklace pendant. Also it had the necklace, the whole necklace with it and everything. So we had no cost associated with that, and it sold for $12.68 on offer to buyer. We got positive feedback on that. Next up were the 2 boxes of vintage faultless starch. One of them was brand new, unused, and one of them was about 3/4 of the way full. We got this at an estate sale. We paid $4 for both of the boxes, and they sold for our full asking price of $34.99. Vintage boxes of anything, usually if they're old and they have vintage packaging, will sell, so be on the lookout for things like that. Next up was a brand I had never heard of. I saw it at the thrift store. It just looked like an really cool 1980s wallet, so I picked it up and researched it when I got home, and it was not anything that I was able to easily find. It was called Depeche. It was a German brand, and so it was like a, you know, typical kind of envelope style fold, hook and loop, or Velcro. You can say Velcro on YouTube, but I've just trained myself now to say hook and loop because you cannot use the word Velcro on eBay. But the character that was on it, her name was Diddlina, and I guess she's a character from a larger group of characters that's called Diddle, D-I-D-D-L, which is not anything I'm familiar with. I don't know if it's a comic or what it is exactly. But anyway, that I researched it, could not find any listed. I think I had found some previous solds, and I don't remember. This has been listed in our store for a long time, so now I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what my research had shown. But there were very few listed. It seemed like a really more of a European character, so I can't really remember. But we did finally sell that, and we sold it after I did end item and sell similar when we were doing our inventory. We had paid 48 cents for that at the thrift store, and it sold for $19.48 on offer to buyer. We did get positive feedback on it. Next up was a pair of men's Urban Pipeline jeans. We got these in the $30 storage auction unit that we purchased. These sold for $16.98 on offer to buyer, and we had paid just 24 cents for those. We got positive feedback on those as well. And last but not least, I'll go over all of the collectible cards that we sold from my husband's personal collection. This week we only sold low value cards, meaning cards valued at $10 or under. We sold 2 cards for a total dollar amount of $7.08. That wraps up our video for the week of December 31st through January 6th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let us know by hitting the thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell turned on so you can be kept informed of all of our latest content. And stick around for another video that's going to pop up right over here, and we will see you guys on the flip side.